Welcome to the Flying High Club in association with the World Aviation Festival, Lisbon 2025. This series in Lisbon is brought to you and powered by Swiper, the digital payment platform which works in managing disruption and airline compensation. Swiper is smart, seamless, and built for the future of air travel. You'll find more information in the link below and the comments section. Thank you to Swiper for supporting the Flying High Club at Lisbon 2025. Enjoy the episode. Welcome everyone to the World Aviation Festival here in Lisbon 2025. We're very privileged to be here as the Flying High Club, as the official podcast partner today. And we've lined up some great guests for you. And the World Aviation Festival is a great opportunity, one of the largest aviation conferences supporting tech and innovation across the aviation industry. And we're going to start today actually with the core of what our business is about. Our conversations has always been about people in aviation. And I'm really, really happy to have a guest today that's going to talk to us exactly about that. And I'll give him the chance to introduce himself. Over to you, James. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. So who am I and what do I do, I suppose?
Yes.
So my name's James Parker. I work as a director at Venari Partners. We are an executive search company specializing specifically in aviation. And we have a very deep pedigree in placing airline executives all over the world, from your smallest company right through to household names, huge airlines. And I've been doing this nearly 20 years.
Wow.
So I don't know much else.
So what got you into this? What brought you into wanting to bring people into aviation in these particular roles?
So in the interest of being transparent and honest, as I promised I would be, nobody ever starts out wanting to be a headhunter, and I'd call BS on anyone who does. So I fell into the industry like a lot of people. My mum and dad actually lived in New Zealand. They'd emigrated when I was at school. So I guess I didn't really have anywhere to go after university because I stayed getting schooled in the UK. And so I pretty much took the first job somebody offered me. And at that time, recruitment was like a huge recruiter of graduate talent. Like a lot of my friends from university to this day are still in recruitment in various aspects, be that working for corporates or working as headhunters. So I just fell into recruitment. I started off in finance for a nice little company that grew. And I sort of went up the kind of traditional management track. So I suppose we call them contingent, but a contingent business is like a success-only model. Okay. Whereas executive search, what we do at Venari Partners now is much more bespoke, much more tailored recruitment solutions aimed at getting senior people, right? So I basically learned some basic recruitment, and then I started doing some airline projects for this company. And very fortuitously, I realized there was a gap in the market. And the nature of aviation is it's really like connected, right? So once I'd started doing a good job for somebody, they started calling and people started offering me work. And that was literally the sort of the beginning of it. And since then, I've never looked back. I've always stayed in aviation. You know, that's where I'm at the coalface.
Perfect. Okay. So a bit of a direct question.
Go on.
But we have HR departments, we have talent acquisition. Why do airlines, tech in aviation, why do these companies need exec search? Why? I mean, you're there already. Everyone knows these people. Why can't they find
It's a really good question. And honestly, we are an outsourced provider. A lot of companies can and do this themselves. You don't always need people like us to do it. And it's not cost effective to use people like us for every search. But there's often reasons to be discreet, i.e., somebody might be in the role that's maybe not performing, or you're planning the eventuality that individual might leave. Maybe they retire. So there's a large element of discretion. Secondly, I think for the sorts of stuff we do, you want the very best. And you want to see, I always liken it. Do you like sport?
I love sport.
Right, okay. Are you a football fan?
I am.
Who do you support?
We won't talk about that on the podcast.
Who do you support, though?
I do support United.
Right, okay, because I was going to use Man United as my example. So if Man United desperately needed a striker who could actually score, for example, right, they might use an agent. And that agent, their job is to find the best striker who's available, affordable. But it's not like they put an advert out on the paper for football striker. Well, maybe but they might well need to even.
At the moment, the way United are, I can imagine.
Yeah, sorry, it was an easy D. But in reality, like that's why they use agents, right? The agents are there to broker introductions that would otherwise be difficult on your own. So it's discretion. It's about finding the best person. There's probably a degree of luxury about it. Like there's definitely a sort of feeling that, I've got this search firm doing this for me.
Yeah.
There's a prestige, I suppose, about using a search firm. Those would be the main reasons, I think.
Yeah. And I guess
And not hiring the wrong person.
Exactly. Yeah. And also, I think, like you said, you've got the industry experience. You probably know who to go to in those discrete conversations, rather than, as you say, it won't look pretty good for some of these companies to say, "Oh, by the way, we're out for someone in this role," and that person's sitting there thinking, "I didn't know about this." And at the same time, you going in and actually feeling people out, really say, would they be interested?
I think at the sorts of stuff we do, there is a realism, right? Like that people do cycle through businesses. You will need change.
Yeah.
Attrition happens. So, you need to be prepared for that. So I've done projects, for example, where, the incumbent's actually brilliant and doing a really good job, but the company is so worried about the individual leaving that they need a contingency plan.
Yeah.
And particularly in things like ops, like where you've got a real, imperative need for like a notice holder or something, you want a contingency plan. Because a recruitment process for the stuff we do, it's probably still like 3 or 4 months.
Yes.
At its best.
Yeah.
So you don't want to get caught out basically.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Okay. So that's really good to hear about what you do and what Venari Partners do. Moving back into where we are today, we're at the Aviation Festival. Why are conferences like this so important in your mind?
Well, I'm going to answer it for like, why is it important to me? And then maybe more generally, I think for me, coming to these events, well, there's 2 things. First, I can see a lot of people in a very short period of time in one place and cut down on all my flying needs. And at the moment, I'm traveling an awful lot. So I would struggle to be able to have the interactions that I can have here and other events too in the same amount of time. So there's definitely that. I think if you're looking to, as an industry, breed innovation, create ideas, share ideas, then you need to be places like this, because this is where people can talk. Sometimes maybe there are subjects that are taboos or not something you can talk openly about. But generally speaking, most people are very open about what they're doing. I'm hosting a couple of panels today. I know the COOs are going to share really great experiences that they are allowed to talk about.
Yes.
So I think, getting people in front of each other. Yeah, the industry really struggled through COVID. Like I personally thought it was really sad.
Tough, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm used to going to see people. I'm in sales, basically.
Yes.
So for me, meeting people and building relationships as opposed to business relationships is important. And I struggled to do that remotely. I'm never going to be as good on the phone or on a Teams as I will be, shaking someone's hands, having a chat and talking to each other.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why we all only do face-to-face on the podcast. I think you get to see the emotion, you get to see the dynamic between the individuals as well. And like you say, I think there's something always about being present and face-to-face.
You know what? I think in my job as well, the bit that I love about my job is, and the bit I find like intellectually like curious is the need to read someone, like the psychology. I never really realized this until later in my career. And I've started actually reading a lot about it because I'm genuinely intrigued by humans. Like, why does somebody do something? And you can't read that on a phone call or, sorry, that's not true. There are cues, there are things you can pick up. But in person, you kind of get to know somebody and all about them. You can challenge them in other ways when you're having conversations about jobs or whatever. You get to know somebody over a coffee a lot better than you will ever get to know somebody remotely. So, in a very verbose way, that's why I think.
And, again, linking into your background and what you're doing here today, if I'm a budding talent within the aviation industry and I've come to WAF, what should I be taking away from a conference like this? What should I be trying to do when I'm here over the next 3 days?
Good question. So I would just encourage people to meet as many people as possible. I arrived yesterday and met more than a handful of new people and I've been doing this a long time, that I haven't met before. So I would say, get out and meet people. Don't be shy. I think you used the word budding talent, right? If this is an aspiring talent in whatever field within aviation, then they're probably going to need to be somebody who's open to learning, right?
Yes.
Go and learn stuff. There's some really cool stuff out here, like really cool speakers. I think some really interesting vendors. I personally love the, I'm an investor in quite a few travel startups and travel tech businesses. Most of them I've got to know here.
Nice.
So you can see some really interesting, innovative solutions. Not all of them are going to make it, but there's some really interesting companies that are doing things differently. And I get inspired by that when I come here. Like, I really like it. I love to learn about new solutions, new products, new developments for our industry. So, And
that's really refreshing to hear. That's what you want to hear from leaders in the industry, about that constant need to learn. It's very easy. Again, in our industry, it does rely on experience. But you only get that experience if you put yourself in those situations and you're constantly open to learning, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, 100%.
okay, great. I think everyone liked that answer. I was like, yeah. You just mentioned actually really nicely segueing on to startups and investors.
Yep.
So if I was a startup here, what should I be paying attention to when I'm here?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Because it can be very
Depends what stage you're at, right? Like, I mean,
yeah,
I think, a startup with a good idea and no funding probably has a different set of challenges to somebody who secured their funding and is now looking to sell themselves to new airlines. I don't know if there's a straightforward answer to that. I think when you sent me the interview prep, you asked a question. I forget exactly how it was phrased, but like, what advice were you given? Right. And, I was lucky to be one of the founders with Venari Partners. In my last company, I was a founder too. And one of the pieces of advice my former CEO, before I ventured into that company, offered me was cash flow. And like, just never, ever, ever be not bothered about cash flow. And I think it's relevant to what we do in this industry because procurement processes are really slow in aviation.
Yeah.
Like, I know that. I've been there.
Yeah.
You can have the best product and it can get blocked and blocked and blocked. So you need enough money to survive. So if I was a startup here, I'd be looking to sell, I'd be looking to network, but more broadly, I'd be so focused on cash flow because if you last long enough, probably you'll make it in this industry, in aviation.
That's a really sound piece of advice. I mean, it sounds very practical and, like you said, with maybe your experience of investing in some of these guys, but cash flow is the killer of a lot of these dreams, right? Because you can't maintain, and as you say, this is a big industry. Things do take a lot of time, and I know there's a big push, especially when we're here, we're talking about tech, we're talking about innovation, and you always think moving fast. But there's a reason in aviation why it doesn't always move fast, and it can be.
I showed you our debtors list of airlines, and you saw how long it takes some of them to pay.
Yeah,
you would genuinely be like horrified. Yeah. And like, we're lucky and fortunate that we're a big company in our industry, and we're capable of sustaining that. But like, genuinely, I sit there and I think some days, we're 180 days past the agreed payment date, and we're still chasing a very large corporate who play the games of treasury management very well.
Yes.
And I just think if you're like, Joe Bloggs out there trying to launch a company, you need to basically have you can have the best product again. You'll die because of cash flow.
Exactly. No, it's a really good point, and hopefully something people can take away. I want to move into the segment where we kind of talk about the role that you're doing and the background around there. In terms of trends when it comes to aviation firms and what they're looking for in their exec recruitment, I know you can't go into specifics, but are you seeing a change in the type of requirements over the last year or two in terms of leadership?
So yes is the answer, but sometimes they're not easy to pinpoint why. Yeah. Like, for example, if a couple of CCOs move in the industry, it creates like a domino effect. There's a concertina effect, and then suddenly there's loads of CCO roles. Yeah. A couple of years coming out of COVID, everything was like heavy ops, and then it went commercial, and we were doing a lot of network and revenue leadership roles, and we were doing lots of digital. Now we're doing a lot of tech stuff. Fortunately, I have people in my team who are like tech experienced recruiters as opposed to just airline, because you couldn't have been an airline tech recruiter 15 years ago. Really, like, it would have been a real hard specialism it needs to have. But now the emphasis is on investing in those areas. So I think there's kind of this like calendar fluctuation between roles, and sometimes it literally is just chance. But if I think about more broadly, like, what are we seeing? I'm really pleased that diversity in all forms continues to be something we're pushed on as a search firm. Okay. To embrace diversity in our shortlists. And I hope that's here to stay. I have a daughter. I want her to have the same opportunities as my son will have. So, yeah, we definitely see that. It's not in all parts of the world, and there's perhaps reasons for that, but generally, like, we do get encouraged to do that. I think in operations, you've got an aged workforce.
Yes.
So, like, it's happening. Like, they will retire.
Yes.
And unfortunately, under recruitment in years gone by, and also just a difficulty to retain and attract talent in operations has meant that we have a bit of a lull in certain functional areas, particularly like something like maintenance.
Yes.
Like, the best engineers probably aren't the best leaders. So it's not necessarily something that breeds leadership.
Yes.
And so right now we get so many VP, SVP, maintenance roles, and I look at it and just see, I don't know where all the talent's coming from.
Yes.
We're going to have to, as an industry, we're going to have to do something quite different because there is enough people to go around.
Yeah. And I think that was exacerbated after COVID. You saw a lot of these people that are coming towards the end of their careers and just took the opportunity to say, you know what?
You know what worries me about like engineering is historically airline engineers stayed in aviation. They might work for an MRO or an OEM or an airline, but broadly speaking, they stay within our sphere of aviation. But there are these really well-funded, really cool drone delivery companies and, urban autonomous vehicle companies that essentially need similar skill sets.
Yeah.
And I think the allure of those sectors now is going to increasingly take talent from our industry.
Yeah.
In a market where we already don't have enough talent.
Yeah.
So like I think like the pilot stuff probably will look after itself eventually, and technology can kind of take part of that.
Yeah.
But engineers worry me. Like, yes, robotics can do some of it, but
Yes.
I don't see how we're going to do this. And there are some really cool airlines doing, innovative recruitment of junior talent, but it's not going to be enough. And if these really cool companies that are heavily funded and offer crazy stock plans and all these sorts of things that our industry, which isn't the greatest payer, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. No, it's a valid point. I think there is, as you mentioned there, I think engineering has been a massive risk for the reasons you mentioned though.
You can hire marketing, HR, finance, even commercial outside of the industry. It's pretty difficult to do in engineering, in the sort of heavy tech roles. So I do worry about that.
So James, I want to also talk about, like you said, the executive search process. Mm-hmm. So how has that evolved in the last 5 years?
I'm not sure it's evolved in like massively in my industry. I feel incredibly privileged to work in a company that has a really good brand in our sector. And I've known some of these executives for a long time. And even, I love seeing people grow in the industry as well. So there's people I placed, mid to level management roles 15 years ago and now like decision makers in executive roles. So I love that. And I think relationships basically will still be a really important component of my job. The barrier to entry in this industry, in aviation, in executive search, is time and relationships.
Yeah.
There's loads of great companies that do what we do. There's amazing recruiters and headhunters out there that could easily do my job much better, I'm sure. But if they haven't been in the space and been seen and had the networks, I think they'll struggle. That being said, there are some exciting technologies coming in our space. I don't worry about them taking me out. Like, I don't think that they can do my job, and I'm already getting on a bit. So hopefully I'll see this through in my career, because I actually love doing what I do. Yeah. But there are some technologies, and I think you embrace them. Things that help with referencing, things that help with verbal, numerical, psychological testing. Like, there's much more intuitive technology around like the psychology of an individual. LinkedIn does some amazing stuff. I don't think that they're necessarily as good as people assume them to be. I look to the sort of periphery of our sector, executive search, and ultimately my job is to find people, sell them a job, understand why they may or may not do the job, recruit based on the filters that my client gives me. Yeah. So I'm looking for this, and this. And so there are technologies that can help. I'll continue going to things like this and traveling around to meet people, because relationships continue to be the most prominent sort of asset I have.
So actually, you gave me 2 points out there that I want to kind of build upon. You keep mentioning relationships and building those. Again, what advice would you give to people who are not so good at that, but they can obviously see it's important? We're talking about evolving those skills, those soft skills.
Yeah, I think that's like that is something you can learn. Like, I don't believe any 21-year-old has the confidence that they might have at 31 if they work on developing their confidence, right? So, with experience and knowledge comes confidence, and, we're all just people. Like, I'm very privileged that my phone's full of CEOs numbers and their reports, and I've placed so many executives in airlines, and I call them friends. I've been to some of their weddings. I've been to parties. I've spent social time with these people. It's not because I've got a massively equipped skill set of, relationship management that everyone else can't have. You can work at it. So I think I say this to look. Obviously in my team, I've got aspiring search consultants at various different stages in their career, and I tell them all, you can do this job if you do it well, work hard, have empathy, but also study. Most of us don't study business. So you end up in this job, which is now business.
Yes.
And I did sports management, sports psychology and sports science with applied physiology. Like, my degree was nothing to do with what I do. And I can't really remember any of it. But the point I'm trying to make is that you then need to study. So I like to read a lot. I like to get inspired by people. Sometimes they're business books, sometimes they're autobiographies, history. Yeah. But I try and think about, like, what am I doing to better myself, to be better at my job next year than this year?
And absolutely. And I think even just educating yourself in that way, it just builds more opportunities to build that relationship, right? There's something else you might find in common, or something that can help build a conversation. Because you never want to be in that situation. I've been there, right? It's horrible. Where you're like, oh, hi, James. How are you?
You just pointed something which we talk a lot about, which is how do you find the common ground? I think you used the phrase bridge just then. But like, how do you bridge your relationship? Do you enjoy sports? Yeah. What outside of just the obvious things can you suddenly get a friendship or a bond about?
Yeah.
And so that's real life.
Yeah.
That's how friendships are, right?
Yeah. Finding that common ground, as you say, bridge.
But you have to work at it. Like if you don't ask the right questions, or you don't, speak to somebody and give them, your proper attention, then you won't get those things. And those little pieces of information elicit the stuff that creates the relationship.
Perfect. No, that's really helpful. And I think that will be really helpful to our listeners, actually, because I think we've got a lot of a young audience who are very keen on aviation, which is great. That's what we want to see. But it's about how can we help create those skills, those soft skills.
Obviously, each job, right, requires a different level of personality. We're all meant to do different things. I'm sure of it. So, an introvert might struggle with the relationships, but they can still work at it. Like, I think if you just sort of assume that you're no good at building relationships, then you're not going to develop it. Like, it doesn't matter where you start from, start becoming better at it.
Yeah. Sometimes it's our mind that is our biggest barrier, isn't it? Like you say, you can't do this. But actually, as you said, you never walked into aviation.
I always think of it like an athlete, right? If you want to be the world's fastest man or something like that, you're going to need the best gym, best diet. You're going to need to get up every day and better yourself. You're going to have to work really hard at surrounding yourself with all the right people to make sure you are the best at what you can be.
Yeah.
Every job we all do is essentially the same. Like if you decide to make a bad decision, or you're not disciplined, or, you surround yourself with the wrong people or whatever, it will make you worse at what you do. So irrespective of whether you're an introvert engineer looking to, find an innovative solution to, reduce carbon dioxide, emissions from planes, there's still going to be something in there that you could do that would be better. And you need to work at those things and figure out how to better yourself. We're all on this journey of hopefully self-improvement.
Perfect. Really well put. Thank you. So now I want to talk about something more interesting in terms of what we can get into. Can you share any memorable or challenging hires you've had while at Venari Partners?
So you told me about this question, and I sat there and I was like, basically, most of what we talk about, I can't talk about because the discretion element. I'd have to go and ask my clients, are you okay for me to shout about this hire I made for you? But there are, and we work with lots of the biggest companies in the world, and but those are like easy ones in the sense that they're easy to talk about or easy to identify with, whether it be we've done a lot of work with, of the top 20 airlines in the world, we probably work with the vast majority, right?
Yeah.
I actually really enjoy the really weird and wonderful stuff, the things that you'd never do again. Like we did this project, which I will tell you about. A very famous, wealthy family own an island off the coast of Fiji called Laukaula, and they have their own planes. And they came to us and said, look, we understand you guys are specialists. We need a leader to run our airline business. I was like, your airline business? What? You don't have an airline business. But they got a couple of aircraft and they needed somebody to look after that. And that person was also effectively the sort of customer experience lead, because these high net worth individuals that would land on the main island and then transport on one of their planes to this incredible luxury resort. I don't think most people know these places exist. I didn't know this place existed until I found out about it. Go check it out. It looks amazing. Yeah. But I loved doing that role because the challenges were learning a new company, a new culture, a completely different set of stakeholders to what I'd worked with. How do you go sell a project, to an airline executive, in Fiji? You start thinking about, well, you've got luxury, you're going to have the best lifestyle, all these other things. And we ended up finding this chap, Tim, his name is, and he was in New Zealand, and actually he was sort of, his family heralded from Fiji, and he was really keen to sort of go back and experience that with his family. And, and you get this perfect solution. Yeah, it was really cool. And it's pretty hard to imagine that was going to be the outcome.
Yeah.
But when something it works, and, I'm lucky my research team are amazing, and they found this individual and found that the reasons why he was perfect for that job. And it was more than just the job. It was the family, he wanted his kids to have an international life. It was a really cool project. So I don't know if that's the example you were hoping for, but
no. Listen, I think it's, like I said, it's about giving people an insight into the kind of things you get involved in. And I always advocate on this podcast that this industry is one of those industries where you could do anything. And I think these kind of examples show that, running an airline.
I've done some weird projects, like with a carrier in the US who has one plane and one route.
Yeah.
I've been on client trips where in Alaska, where they've said, do you know what? Don't bother working in the office today. Why don't you go and deliver post on one of our planes and see part of Alaska? I love all that stuff. And don't get me wrong, working with the biggest brands in the world is really cool. Yeah. Great for business.
Yeah.
But doing the same job I've recruited 3 times in the last 15 years doesn't necessarily get me out of bed in the morning. I love the people behind it. But when you do these weird and wonderful projects, things that are a bit different, you work with a travel tech company that've got this cool product and, you see them succeed. I like that stuff.
Nice. Cool. And now I want you to look at the aviation industry, the ecosystem.
Yep.
From your lens, what part of that supply chain of the industry are you seeing real big leadership gaps? I think we talked about engineering.
Yeah, we talked about that. So we'll part about one. Actually, there's probably a theme here that maybe we can address a little bit, which is one that comes across my desk quite a lot at the moment, which is like recruiting from outside the industry into our sectors, travel tech, the whole of the travel ecosystem. And there are some amazing sectors that our industry can learn from. Think e-commerce, or loyalty in other consumer markets.
Yeah.
There's 2 challenges to that though, and one is that we don't pay the same money as other sectors. That's a concern because even if people say yes now, if they don't feel they're being fulfilled in their salary expectations or career, they do tend to leave eventually. And I think our industry is really bad at helping people join. I'm not going to name individuals, but I can think of dozens of people, massively talented, came from other sectors with energy, enthusiasm, and 2 years in, they're beat up and they go back to another sector because I don't think our industry is very good at allowing outside influences in.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's because, there's lots of acronyms and most people who are in aviation and travel start because they want to be in that sector.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see us actually have more demonstrable examples of recruiting executive and middle level management roles from other sectors and seeing them succeed.
Yeah.
There's not enough.
No, I think you're 100% right. I think we are very insular like that. You mentioned really good examples there when it comes to, for example, loyalty. Whether even in associated, you think about the hotel groups, what have you, they do it so well. We all must be part of one of them,
Yeah.
So my point is there will be good people in there.
Oh, and there's 100% great talent in every industry.
Yeah.
I just don't think our industry is particularly great at allowing them to come in and succeed. You've got to give them time.
Yes.
People running around going chasm this or OTP that. If they don't know, they don't know. They need to learn.
Exactly.
And they need time.
Yeah.
And they're demonstrated they're credible and successful in other careers.
Perfect.
But maybe if you don't love this sector, it's a little harder to live with, I think. So maybe actually people like me could do a better job of preparing these individuals when they do come.
Yeah.
Because you can get beaten up. There's always something, a volcano in Iceland screws up the whole summer.
Exactly.
Or whatever, and you could be amazing at your job and then suddenly outside of your control, you have a terrible 3 or 4 months. And, if you haven't got the resilience to carry on, then maybe somebody turns up with a bigger checkbook and you think, actually, I'm doing all the hours God can send at the moment. Yeah, is this really worth it?
Yeah. Okay, so we bring us on really nicely to some of the softer skills. Like you say, we're here today. We're talking about tech. We see a lot of innovation, and some of it is hardware, of course, and that's what sits behind it. But as you say, you're after the people. You're interested in the people. I want to delve into that now in terms of what are the key soft skills you feel that are lacking within the industry in terms of when you're looking for talent.
I'm not really sure there's any soft skills lacking. I think actually
underdeveloped.
Okay, when I look and assess a candidate against a profile a company stipulates, going back to your example with Man United and the striker, right?
Man United.
But there's a certain level of things that I can't really change. They're going to want to see that this person's been banging in the goals for somebody else at a high level and consistently and all those things. But then you also need to start thinking about, well, okay, is this person going to settle well in Manchester? Are their family ready for this? So when I look at the sort of criteria above and beyond, can they do the job? Is why would they do the job? Are they prepared for the job? Can my client get the best out of them? Do I see them being a good cultural fit? Which is under appreciated, I think. People assume that they can fit into every company, but companies are very different.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons I travel so much because I want to know what the culture's like. I want to get a feel for it.
Yeah.
Even how the office is structured.
Yeah.
Tells you a lot about a corporate culture, and some candidates will buy into that. Think LCC versus like full service.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, not every candidate is going to be prepared to have to fly, you know, in economy to do an interview. From, you know, some candidates want the first class or business class experience.
Absolutely.
And I understand that. That's them. That's their priorities. That's fine. But it probably means that you're questionable fit to walking into an LCC where they're trying to save every penny.
Yeah.
So I look at those things. I think the job of a CEO in our industry is a really tough one. I had a conversation yesterday with a US recently looking for a job CEO, so he's no longer working. And he said something really interesting. He's like, I'm not sure I want another CEO job. And he said, how do you position me for the layer below where I used to be? I was like, that's kind of interesting. Obviously, this individual who's been a CEO for a substantial period of time has kind of come to the realization, maybe that's not the job for him.
Yeah.
So I think a self-awareness is a very valuable commodity. And I'm not sure all of our industry are great at that.
It's funny, actually, when you mentioned the LCC to full service carrier. I used to run Oxford Gatwick, and obviously such an LCC hub, and you're competing as a sort of full service carrier with these LCCs on every opportunity. And it'd be small things like I couldn't get my head around. They'd be walking around in jeans and t-shirts. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sitting here.
You've got to be in a suit.
I could jeans and a shirt on today.
You've got to be in a suit. What are they doing? But it's like you said, it's just the mindset, right? The culture. And it was small things like that, right? They might be liberating for some people, or some people it's like, no.
I think what's really cool is, like, in my job, you do have the ability to influence, you know, that to prospective candidates. So take your example of, right, well, they're all wearing, you know, open shirts and jeans. I'll use that to my advantage when I'm selling the job. I say, look, the culture is actually pretty relaxed. Don't make the mistake of thinking they're lazy. They're not. They're working really hard, but they don't place much importance on having a shirt and tie on.
Yeah.
You know, and so you can also flip that round and be the other way. Like, you know, so it's important that when we project the roles we're representing to the candidates, that we use culture as a filter. And for some, it won't work. You know, there are lots of candidates who will not be happy about the flight benefits associated with an LCC.
Yeah.
I get it, fine. If you're used to flying business class all the time on your family holidays, maybe this isn't the place for you.
Yeah. And it's good to have those honest conversations up front, right? Saves you hassle, saves them, all parties. Okay, so now we want to move on to the flight path, which is about you.
Yep.
Right. So it's been great hearing about what you've been doing and some of these great stories. But if you now look back, you gave us some examples, and hopefully you've got many more. But what's been your proudest career moment so far?
That's a really easy question to answer. We do something, I'm going to plug this, so, you know, bear with me, but it's all for charity. We do something called Venari Partners Challenge, which is a really, really wonderful initiative, which we partner with airlines. So we partnered with SAS, we're partnering with AVIATION this year, and we partnered with Wizz previously. And we essentially, Venari pays for these individuals, I think it's normally 10 every year, to go on an unbelievable experience, something they wouldn't be able to do themselves. These aren't candidates or clients of ours. These are people who, I think we sort of coined the phrase, need a break. Like, they deserve a break. Right? And some of their stories, by the way, are like very sobering, and like, you know, these people need these breaks.
Yeah.
And we do this, and we've got other airlines and other corporate sponsors now to participate in this, and seeing the feedback from these individuals and learning their journeys and how we can help them, easily the best thing I've done in my career. Like, to be part of that, to support it. You know, I went to Jordan. We did one in Jordan where we took them, you know, across the desert, and it was incredible to sort of see what it meant to these people. They wouldn't do this without us.
Yeah.
And we're giving them this reason, and they go and raise money for charity at the same time, a charity of their choice. Irrespective of whether they raise £1 or £10,000, they still go. We don't set them a target. It's about, there's some people would struggle. You know, some of them have had mental health problems or debilitating illnesses. And unfortunately, some are no longer with us because their illnesses were incurable.
Yeah.
It's the best thing. Like, it started with, basically, we were spending too much money with LinkedIn. and it sounds ridiculous, but our marketing,
I don't know from LinkedIn.
I know, but whatever, I don't like LinkedIn. And we were basically sitting there thinking, well, how do we get the same marketing and branding by doing something better than continually spending more and more on a stream of advertising that doesn't really seem to be delivering us value in the way we want?
Yeah.
And so we started thinking about, well, how do we be charitable? How can we do something? Is there something we could do that would go viral? Could we start changing people's lives? Because ultimately, as a search consultant, right, my job is to change someone's lives. I'll get you a job.
Yeah.
Well, we can't change the lives of the people we tend to bring on these treks in other ways, like getting careers, because maybe they're not executives.
Yeah.
but we can do something really cool and bring in our clients and have them support. And the airlines have been amazing. Like every airline I've ever asked, the CEO's just said, 100%, count us in. We'll give you all the flights for free.
I think the narrative you played there, I mean, I think we should definitely plug it. So I think we should get people find out more about it.
They can go and raise some money for charity a little bit more. And that's it. Go check it out. Venari Partners Challenge.
That's it.
And have a look at the stories of those individuals. And if you could find it at all to sponsor one of them or to support one of them, amazing.
Perfect. No. I think that sounds really good. And I can see the pride coming out when you're talking about it.
I'm super proud of it. We've won like really cool awards. We've won CSR, like Initiatives of the Year awards and stuff. And like, we're not the world's biggest company, right? We're not a FTSE 100. So to do something like this and to get other companies to start doing it. And again, like I've seen the effect it's had on some people and they've got like these amazing friendship groups now, like, and they talk to each other and they support each other.
Amazing.
They've got, some of them are going through hellish things and they're there for each other now. And we've brokered an introduction, which is what I do for a career, but in a different way.
Perfect. No, that's really good. Thank you.
So plug done.
You talked about advice earlier on as well, but I want to think about what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
We sort of referred to it a little bit earlier on around cash flow. I carry this stupid, the marketing team are going to frown on me now, but I have this silly little phrase, but if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. Now, bear with me. It kind of means like, if you're going to do something, do it to the fullest. Like, you know, if you're going to appropriate yourself to something, try and be the best you can be at it. So as a piece of advice, like I do lots of stuff outside of an executive search and I always take that mentality. Like if I'm going to do something, you know, I'm going to try and do it the best. If I'm going to go run a marathon, I'm going to try and beat my time. If I'm going to, you know, go down the gym, I'm never going to stop trying to be better and fitter. If I'm going to, you know, want to be better at my job, I'm going to read. So it's a silly little phrase, but it's one that I say a lot. I say it to my kids.
Nice. Yeah. That's good. Okay. Have you had any defining crossroads in your career? So, like you said, you've been doing this for a while now. Has there been points where maybe you feel, you know what, like you said about the people that think, I don't know if aviation's for me, this is too much of a niche, or actually, do you know what, I don't need these grey hairs at night. I don't need these CEOs calling me, looking for...
They always call it at wrong hours as well, I'm telling you. I've got some stories about that for another day. So the job I did before this, I was a partner in the company. It was a company called Investigo, really lovely company, and we grew it really quickly. And ultimately, it got sold to an investor, and I wasn't particularly happy. It just wasn't the place for me. We'd sort of become this really large company. We're trying to be everything to everyone. And actually, the secret sauce to being a good headhunter is be like specialist. And I was being asked to take leadership roles and do things I didn't really want to do. And I remember trying to leave, and they, you know, offered me some more money, and I stayed for a bit. And I was miserable. And my wife, she's amazing. She's an incredible support to me and allows me to do this job. She just, we just had a baby. She was like, do something that makes you happy. I'm like, are you sure you want to risk like a lot of things with me changing job right now and uncertainty around my earnings and things? I'm so glad I did it because it was a really tough time. So my advice to anybody would be like, and I guess I'm somewhat incentivized to say this, but I mean it very humbly, is like, if you don't like your job, change.
Yeah.
Like life's too short.
Yeah.
And I've been there myself. I now spend my time working with people to try and make those changes, but you know, you work a long time.
Yeah.
So make sure you're trying to do something that fulfills you and you're happy in. And so I don't know if it was massive crossroads, but it led me to Venari Partners, which has led me to this job. And I love doing what I do now. I feel very privileged to be doing it.
Great. No, that's a great answer. Thank you. And then again, we're trying to reflect back now.
Yeah.
So again, you're talking about what people should be doing. We mentioned about some of the skills or gaps we're seeing. What advice would you give to your 25-year-old self? I know it was only last week, but you know,
and play less rugby so you can walk properly when you're older. I think it would probably follow the same same lines as the last conversation. You know, be happy, like do something that fulfills you. I was quite young to achieve some leadership roles in my companies when when I was doing my first recruitment roles, and I was aspiring to be a CEO and do all those things. And actually, I couldn't think of anything worse now. I love doing search. Like, this is what I do. I don't want to run Venari Partners. Like, I am where I should be and doing the job I should be. And I think sometimes you get caught up in this rat race. And certainly back at 25, I was probably more bothered about title and prestige. And we'll use another football analogy, but like the best strikers aren't necessarily good managers. And I say this to people who think about joining our industry. Like, I prefer to be on the pitch trying to bang in the goals.
Yeah.
There are some who make the transition. There's loads who don't. Yeah. But I don't want to be the one managing. That doesn't play to my strengths. So if I'd have realised that earlier, I'd probably be a bit further along.
So this podcast has been really balanced, actually, James. You've been talking about some of the headaches with aviation, some of the great stuff with aviation. Why should someone choose a career in aviation?
Oh, I find that again is an easy question. Like, I walk around here and I'm bumping into friends and shaking hands and talking to people. Venari Partners has other sectors. We have colleagues who recruit in all sorts of different things. They can and do make more money. Like, they have sectors that are far more profitable than ours. Ours is super friendly. Like, it's quite relaxed. People are pretty genuine. And I love it for those things. I mean, okay, maybe if I was a private equity recruiter, I'd be earning more money. Sure. But I think it would be more like transactional.
Yeah.
Like, I love doing what I do because of the people. So it's a really simple, easy answer. It sounds like I'm dodging the question. I don't think I am, but I love walking around here and seeing people and bump into people. And I love seeing people grow their careers. Like I talked about earlier on, placing a manager who ends up being like a chief of something. That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty awesome. Thank you. Okay, cool. We now move on to a fun segment we have. It's called the Quickfire round.
Okay.
So the idea is short and sharp, one-word answers. Okay. They give you a few more words if you need them.
Okay.
But it's a bit light-hearted and just to get to know you a bit better as well.
Okay.
For our viewers. So we'll start very easy. Did you do a lot of flying? Aisle or window?
Definitely window.
Okay. Chicken or beef?
Chicken.
Favorite airport?
I love Copenhagen Airport.
Biggest influence on your career?
Family. Yeah.
Your earliest aviation memory?
So, I don't know how to answer that in one word. My mum and dad put a lot of their efforts into taking us to school and stuff. And so we didn't really have lavish holidays and stuff. But I do remember the first flight I took to Tenerife for a holiday. It felt like what everybody else was experiencing. And I can't remember who I flew with, to be honest with you. I just remember being able to sort of say I'm going on holiday on a plane. Every holiday before that had been a car to France or something. So
the feeling bit experience,
hopefully there is still this prestige of flying. I know it's definitely more
accessible,
yeah, and I'm glad about that, right? Like, people should, and all walks of life should be able to travel. But certainly, 30 odd years ago when I was a young kid, or 4 years ago, that wasn't something that happened that often. So the prestige, like the allure of I'm going to be in a plane, it was pretty cool.
Nice. Okay. Are you a lounge lizard or a last minute dasher?
100% last minute dasher.
And then tell us one fun fact about you that our viewers wouldn't know.
Well, some might know if they follow me. I'm a massive car nerd. Yeah, like, I could talk to the cows come home about classic cars, collecting cars. Other than aviation podcasts, all my other podcasts are car related. I should have been a headhunter in classic cars or something, I guess. I'm not regretting it, but it's a lot of my business you could probably pitch to Venari. So there you go, right? Like, we should establish an automotive. I think I actually just love the passion. I like the beauty of it. I'm not so bothered about new cars.
Yeah.
Like, the newest Ferraris and stuff don't interest me. Yeah. Classic stuff I really get excited about. I love the idea. I think they are pieces of art.
Perfect. Okay. We've talked about a lot of stuff, so it's been a great conversation. Thank you, James. I really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate how open you've been. If I wanted to just ask you one thing that our viewers could take away from this chat, I think I could summarize a few things, but I'd love to hear what you feel like they can take away from here.
Given that this is all about aspiring talent and stuff, I suppose I would tell people, like, you're on a journey, so keep learning. Like, don't stop personal development.
Yeah.
It's not the company's responsibility you work for. It might be a little bit, but it's not solely. So you've got to take some personal responsibility for bettering yourself. I think that would be it.
Well, it's a great way to end and a great piece of advice. I think, honestly, there's been so many nuggets in here. I don't know if I'm going to even split this up to get these things out, because I really appreciate how honest you've been and how open you've been. And I think that just benefits our viewers. Thank you to Swiper for supporting the Flying High Club at Lisbon 2025.